Great. We are live, chapter 5 of The Road Goes Ever On. And we are going to be picking up on where your fellowship journey has just begun. It is the early evening, and you guys are fleeing from a group of warg and goblin that you guys had fought, and though it with mixed result, having lost Orodreth, who fell in battle, and Moira, who was knocked unconscious, but Lily was able to stabilize. So you're moving your way through this tangled wood, branches kind of whipping at the horses and ponies. Araphor has cradled in front of him the unconscious form of Moira. Lily is riding Dusty, her small pony, just behind Araphor. And trailing behind that is Mithne, Orodreth's horse, and the cloaked, covered form of Orodreth is resting across the saddle of Mithne. It's growing darker in the forest. You can just make out the form of Araphor ahead of you, Lily, as he ducks and weaves past low-hanging branches. This small breeze that kind of cuts its way through the leaves above you, and you can hear the labored breathing of the horses. And I'll let you guys pick it up here. It's about an hour and a half after the attack.
Lily calls out, Araphor, how much farther do you think we need to go? It's getting dark. As if Araphor can't see.
There are many more foes than the ones that we saw. We need to make sure we get far enough away. We need time. The further we get, the more time we get before something finds us. We go until it gets too dark to go.
And we need to find a place we can defend. Or hide or something. Lily's still crying as she urges Dusty on to keep the little pony going. The tears just kind of roll down her cheeks every so often, thinking about her friend Araphor. Or Orodreth, excuse me.
It's not long after your exchange that the quietness of the early setting light is broken by the howl of a wolf. And it's answered by several others. Araphor, you know that they have the scent. The wargs have picked up your trail. It's difficult in the woods to know how far back they are. What would you guys like to do?
I think at this point, Araphor clearly having a sense of the danger that follows them at every turn is going to hope basically just to continue going until they can't see. Like, we're literally until it's so dark that it's not that they can't proceed. Like, he's not going to stop until it's literally impossible.
Perfect. Give me a survival roll as you're kind of weeding your way. You know these woods, so I believe you have advantage on this roll. So that is not going to be hindered by the fading light.
Yeah, I also get double my proficiency bonus. So that is Going to be +6, so 12 + 6 is 18.
Lily, you're not sure how the ranger does this. Your eyes struggling to see just his form ahead of you. But he seems to unerringly know when to bend, when to duck. And at one point, he reins up on Israfel, Sun Gold, Moira's horse, and he dismounts. Behind you, you can hear the baying of the wolves as they draw closer. Your heart thumping in your chest, Lily. You know it's here, Araphor. You look. It's been many months since you've been through this part of the wood. But it's not so long ago that you don't remember. And then you see it. An exposed bit of stone. You go over, push some moss from it, and you see the mark of the Rangers. You reach over, pull back some branches, and there's the path you are looking for. It will not take away the scent that the wargs are following, but it might get you advantage. The trail is easier this way. You quickly mount back up, and now you may take over narrative if you like.
And
Lily, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Araphor would just let out a masked sigh of relief. He's trying to maintain a best sense of control as he can outwardly for Lily's sake. But seeing this symbol gives him just that tiny catch of a breath that he needed, a little bit of determination that he requires to keep pushing on, and hope that this trail will buy them enough time to get away.
And Lily obviously could see, that he's found something that she can tell that he's found a little relief in, and that does actually gives her a little bit more hope. And she quietly calls out so just he could hear, "How's Moira doing? Is she coming around yet?"
She'll live. So the
Oh,
words
good.
kind of catch in his throat.
I think Dusty can keep up for a while yet. Let's keep going. She gives her pony a pet and once again gives him a little kick in the ribs to keep him going.
You both set off on
And
this.
inside,
Oops, sorry, take it.
yeah, just like inside, Araphor is like just dying, like his stomach's tied in knots, his heart's sunk, as he imagines the thought of Moira waking soon to find out what's happened. But he just says, "Yes, we should keep going."
So on this new path you've set out, it is much easier. It's while still forested, it offers a much gentler slope for your horses. Plus, it brings you in the direction you want to go, Araphor, closer to safety, closer to rangers, and hopefully closer to a place where you can truly mourn the loss of your friend. The wolves, the howling gets louder. They're closing the distance. Your gamble, you think, Araphor, might not have been enough. As you kind of jostle in the saddle, as your horse kind of finds kind of catches its hoof on a root, Moira is kind of shifts in front of you. Moira, that shift brings you to a semi-consciousness. You find yourself astride your horse.
Moira's head kind of lifts briefly, and she feels the arms holding her upright, the solidness of a person behind her. And she kind of looks and turns her head and sees that it's Araphor. Ranger. Araphor. What happened?
Shh, don't move too much yet. You still need rest. Now's not the time for words. We have to keep moving. We're not safe yet. He chokes out.
Ow! You hear the baying of wolves off in the forest behind you, Moira, almost as if punctuating Araphor's words. You can see two other, you can see Lily's pony and Orodreth's horse out behind, though it's shadowed due to the dying light. And you break into this clearing where this tall grass is laid out before you. Your area, you must cross this clearing, Araphor, to get to the woods to the other side. You're hoping to make it to the river. If you can make it to the river and ford it, you think that you will be free of the risk of these wolves and goblins.
And Araphor will just lean forward and just say, keep your head down and forward. Don't strain yourself. You need to get to the river. We can have a moment.
She kind of nods and turns back forwards to face the direction they're going. Her heart lifted a little bit to have looked over her shoulder and see two more horses following them.
Yeah, give me a perception roll, Moira, as you look back. It would be at disadvantage because there's no light source. The light is dim.
No. I've rolled a 4 and a 5 on the die.
Perfect. But and your passive perception is?
Ooh.
Oh, it's a 14.
14.
So that would be modified to a 9. So you look back and you can definitely see the small hobbit form of Lily and the pony behind you on Dusty. You could see on Mithni, you could see, you fear that Orodreth has been wounded as well, because he's not sitting up on in his saddle like Araphor is. He seems to be laying across it, much like you would be if not for Araphor holding you up.
She feels the night air on her face and listens for the sound of water.
Yeah, you hear the wind as it kind of blows through the across the tops of the grass. It kind of makes this sound. It would be almost peaceful if not for the baying of the wolves. You hear snapping of branches. You make out the first signs or notice of movement off behind you through these shadowed forms moving through the trees behind you as you set out across this field. It's probably about 400 or so feet across this small field to the wood line. And I would imagine you guys start riding faster. I don't want to decide for you, though.
Lily would certainly encourage Dusty to full effort at that point, because it's open enough, even though it's really dark, that she feels Dusty can handle the going at speed.
Yeah, and at this point, Araphor's logic is that the wolves already have our scent, so our speed is not necessarily going to be what loses them. It's going to be us getting to the water and dropping our scent there. So he would absolutely go full speed through the clearing as long as it appeared safe to him.
Yeah. So you put heel to side of the horses, and you start cutting your way across this field. If any were viewed or looked behind you, you would see the dark shadowed forms of the warg would break out just behind you, probably about 60 to 80 feet behind you. 1, 2, 6 wargs you see break from the tree line, quickly closing the distance. You must hold on to faith, Lily. You think that your horses must, with this breeze, catch the scent of these warg. Their nostrils flare, and even without you urging them on, they seem to find more speed as the tree line quickly starts to. You quickly approach this tree line. Why don't you guys give me an animal handling check?
Oh, thank God. That's an 18 on the die, so that's a mod 20.
Perfect. Yeah. So you had managed to keep distance as your horses stride forward. What little distance that the warg had closed in, you're able to pull away again. And just give me one more as you're kind of moving your way across. Yeah, nice. Moira, tell me how you urge Sun Gold to more speed as Araphor is kind of guiding her.
Moira leans forward. She's very close to Sungold's head, sitting in front of Araphor, and she leans forward and just kind of reaches up to the neck and the cheek and whispers, "Run, Isfel. We have to get away. Run, my dear, run."
So you just hear the thundering of your hooves, your mount's hooves, as it tears up the ground, spreading the grass as it moves. Though you've pulled away the distance, you hear the twang, and you hear the whizzing of arrows as you flee. And you hear them hit harmlessly in the grass beside you. You start hearing, mixing in with the bays of the wolves, the cries of goblins that are upon their backs, urging their own mounts to more speed in the hopes of the kill. And why don't you guys give me one more athletics check? Animal handling check. Yeah. Poor Dusty has a heart of gold, but he's starting to falter. He staggers a bit and starts losing speed. Sun Gold, however, she's bred for these open fields, not the woods that she was once in. So she keeps speed. So you see them starting to pull away from you, Lily. What do you do?
She just hangs on and she calls out, "Flee, flee! Get away if you can. I don't know if Dusty can keep up." And she's just leaning forward on Dusty and urging him to keep going as best he can.
You hear a couple of arrows fly and land near you and Dusty as you guys you're kind of leaning over his neck, Lily. Araphor, you hear Lily yell to you, and you look back, and she's fallen back about 20 feet behind you. You're about 30 feet from the wood line, which would put Lily and Dusty 50 feet. And you would see that Mithne is keeping pace with you and with Sun Gold. Orodreth's body securely fastened to the saddle.
Araphor will. Sorry, go ahead.
Can I see now that Orodreth seems to be either unconscious or dead?
It would be hard for you to know. At best, you know, he does. You know that he was grievously wounded in the fight, and I would leave it to Araphor to describe how he secured. I can't remember if we talked about how you had secured him. It was like classic cowboy movie style, where he's kind of laying over the saddle, or if it's kind of you have him just strapped into the saddle and he's kind of leaning down and secured that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm by no means a horse expert, so I don't know if such thing would be possible. But if it were possible, he probably would have bound him like in the saddle and like forward, kind of up towards the horse's neck. So he would be like basically seated in the saddle, but slumped fully forward and kind of secured.
Yeah, so that's what you would see. You would see the shadowed form of Orodreth leaning over, much like Lily is leaning over the neck of, and you, for that matter, are leaning over the neck of your horse. And you would probably assume that he's urging Mithni to more speed to keep up with Sungold, who is clearly the faster horse.
She continues to lean forwards and just looks over her shoulder at the pony falling behind and knows there's no way it can keep up. Not with her horses. It can't outrun a warg pack. They probably have to stand and fight. There's no way it can outrun them.
So if Araphor were to steal a glance backwards, are the wargs like pretty close to each other, or is there like one that's clearly like the closest to being a threat and the others are lagging behind?
So just like your mounts, the wargs are the same. There's definitely faster ones. So of the 6 wargs that you saw chasing you from the tree line, one is definitely ahead of the others, and they kind of just scattered out. 3 are definitely further behind, probably a good 90 feet behind Lily even. So the closest to Lily, you fear will take down Dusty soon. It's about 20, 30 feet, you would guess, from getting to her. You can see a goblin on its back, and it seems it's firing arrows. And the next closest one would be about 15 feet behind that one, and then 10 feet behind that one.
So Araphor would lean forward and just to Moira, just here, take the reins.
She nods.
And he'll hand that off to her. And basically what he tries to do as best as he can is twist himself around. He'll probably advantage, but what I'd like to do is to fire an arrow into the closest warg, hoping to trip it up. And hoping that will buy enough time to have a getaway.
That's perfect. Rather than making you roll all kind of dice because you're doing that, I'll just give you disadvantage on the attack.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Kind of like twist around on a horseback.
Now, do you have a short bow?
It's a great bow. So no.
Yeah, there's no way you would be able to fire a great bow from horseback. It's just too big.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah, in that case, there's not really much then.
Yeah, that's where short bows kind of outshined a long bow, is that you could actually be more mobile and actually fire it from horseback.
You know, and actually, knowing that maybe she can do something to slow the pack down, even if they get her, Lily does have a short bow. And she's going to try to shoot from the saddle as they run.
Yeah, same. It'd be the same thing for you, Lily.
I mean, Dusty's going to follow those other horses. She doesn't need to worry about what Dusty's doing.
Yeah. Dusty wants to save himself. So he sees those two bigger horses running away, and he's clearly there's probably less you guiding him and him just following the two bigger horses.
Right. Mostly she's been just trying to make it easier for him to run by how she sat, but
I think it's called giving them rein. It's when you kind of loosen up on the reins and just let them go.
Yep. She gave him his head and hooked the reins to the saddle and is turning around with a short bow and wants to take a shot at the warg behind her.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, you maybe your heart catches in your throat a second, Lily, as you turn and look back and you see this large warg closing in on you, and you're just maybe shocked at how close it truly is. So yeah, give us a shot at
disadvantage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, that's too bad. It would have hit for sure. Let's see. This might hit anyway. That's a 13.
Yeah. By some stroke of luck, you bounce in Dusty's saddle and you maybe release the arrow a little bit sooner than you had intended, but it still finds its mark. Give it some damage.
Yeah, all 3 points of damage.
Well, yeah, it nicks it. So you see it kind of stumbles a little bit in its run, and it kind of veers off a little bit to the left, and then it rights itself. And you see the goblin. It does stop the goblin from firing its next arrow, though. As you see the arrow just kind of just drop off the goblin's bow as it kind of reaches down to kind of steady himself so he doesn't fall from the warg. Perfect. So why don't we roll initiative right now, just in case they close the distance and you guys find yourself in a fight. So let's do some initiatives, but we're not in initiative yet. Perfect. So you hear the thrum of Lily's bow, Araphor, as you look back, and you see that her arrow finds its mark, causing the. Give me a D10 roll, Lily. Let's see how much distance you save. Yeah. So it's the stagger and kind of veering that the warg does. You put 9 more feet of distance between it and Dusty. But you see the other warg that was just behind it by about 15 feet close that distance. So now there's 2 of them closing in probably within 40 feet of you. You're still moving closer to the tree line. Now it's probably only actually you're just about there, Araphor, Mithni, and Moira. Do you wish to do? Are you going to go into the tree line or make sure that Lily makes it in as well?
Araphor is kind of stuck, almost like frozen. Like he's caught basically between helping one friend at the expense of another. If he turns back, Moira is not in great shape, and he risks her falling. If he doesn't turn back, then he risks Lily falling, and he's not quite sure what to do.
So is this something that Moira might see, this indecision on your face? As you guys,
I think he's turned around facing the other direction.
Well, he was going to fire a bow, so he was going to turn around, but then I think he retconned that. So I think he's probably doing a little of both. And you can definitely, that's totally up to you, Jeff, whether you're looking back and forth, whether she could even see your face. I was just pondering it myself, whether she would see this in you.
Yeah, I imagine like even if she didn't like see it, she could probably like feel it. Just like the tension of like of him just turning back, looking backwards, turning forwards, looking forwards, just so than anything not saying anything. Like I don't think it'd be too hard to determine that he's kind of stuck.
Fight or flee, tell me now.
You see Orodreth on Mithni makes the tree line, and the 2 of them, you hear the crashing of the underbrush and the thistle as they make their way into the forest line.
All right. Well, I
And Lily,
rolled.
Lily calls out again, go, save Moira. Save yourself. Take word, get help. It'll be all right.
I think we can make it.
Moira spurs the horse.
You do, and you crash through some of the overgrowth and underbrush into the tree line. What little bit of star and moonlight that was getting through this light covering of clouds that you had in the field is immediately kind of dampened as you get underneath the canopy of trees. You hear the growling and the howls of frustration as the goblins and wargs see two of their prey make the tree line, but they still have the third. Yeah, I love it. I love it, Jeff. And yeah, let fate decide sometimes, so we're not always having to make it. And so that leaves you, Lily, still in this field. Good 45 feet to go before you make the tree line. It's not enough. You look over your shoulder. You're getting another arrow ready. I don't know, maybe you're encouraging Dusty to find that little reserve of strength to make that last push. And as you're getting the arrow onto your bow, you realize you're not going to make it. Those two warg are going to close in on you before you find the safety of the trees. You can get another shot off with your bow.
She's definitely going to try that.
Yeah, I figured you would.
Ooh. I don't think 9 disadvantage is going to do it.
No, it flies wide. And the two...
I imagine Dusty stumbles just a second, and
right,
throws it off.
Yeah. And then give me an insight roll, Lily.
All right.
As you see one of these warg breaks off.
It'll be a total of 21.
21. This is probably not one. This is probably an insight roll you'd want to fail.
Oh, well.
You realize that what this other warg is doing, the one that ran up next to the one that you had shot with the arrow, is it's swinging around and it's actually driving Dusty away from the tree line to push you further into the field to keep you out so they can run you down. And to your horror, you see Dusty starting to drift to the right as a result of this, as it hears the warg running off to his left.
Right.
Give me a animal handling check.
All right.
As you try, I'm assuming you're going to try to reach over and right his course, may force him to go back into the woods.
I'll grab the reins and use my legs and, just on my seat, but with only 8.
Yeah, it's not enough.
Not
You're
likely.
fumbling with your bow. You're trying to get a hold of these reins, and you gave him too much. You're trying to rein him in now, and Dusty is not having it. His nostrils are full of the scent of these warg, and he knows that that's fear. That's death, and he wants to get away from it. And we're going to go into initiative now. Araphor and Moira, you look back across from the tree line into the field, and you see Lily and Dusty are being corralled away from safety of the tree line and out into the field. And you see the other wargs. If you've ever seen one of those movies, if you ever watch a nature movie where you watch like wolves kind of get like an elk or something, that's kind of what's playing out right now. So these warg have kind of fanned out, and you know what they're going to do? They're going to tire this poor little pony down. What do you guys want to do? Araphor, you're up first.
Araphor is quite literally not sure what to do. I think at this point he's just like, unless there was an objection specifically directed at him, he would just keep going. Like he can't bring himself to action one way or another, and the horse is already moving, and that momentum is just carrying him.
Right. So I will allow you, Araphor, to, unless you're totally totally frozen with indecision, I would allow you sometime in this initiative to have an action, if you choose to use it. If not, that's fine.
Yeah, I think that whether or not that would happen will largely depend on whether or not he's spurred to action by the other players.
Right, and that's why I want to give you that option, because typically in the mechanics of like D&D, if you don't say I'm going to ready an action, this is what I'm going to do, you can't do it. But because of that, it just fits. So we'll see what he does. Moira, you're up. You see this happening.
She sees the kind of pain on Araphor's face, and she just kind of calls over her shoulder to him. She goes, "We'll all die if we stop. She told us to go. Let's go."
Perfect. And you can.
And I hate to do this now, but I think it would happen. That Araphor would slip up. He would mess up. He would say, "I don't know if I can see another one go."
Yes. 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 Inspiration for you, sir. Yeah. So then I'll let you decide, Moira. Do you hear it as such, or?
She hears it, but she's running on adrenaline and fear, and with the single mind of getting across that river. And it's just like this knot that forms in her chest. There's no confirmation, just suspicion of what it means, but she can't think about it right now.
Awesome. Awesome. Inspiration for both of you, actually. Poor Lily. You're driven further from the tree line where your friends had entered. 10, 20. You lose track. You're just fumbling for another arrow. You can feel the sides of poor Dusty just heaving with exertion. You can see the sweat slick across his, what do they call that? Fur? What do they call that on a mane? What is it on a horse?
Hair. Horses have hair.
Horses have hair. Yeah.
Withers.
So
neck.
his sides are just flecked with this this salt from the exertion. You can see his mouth is starting to foam. And it is your turn. So these wolves are driving you further away. That's their action.
Is there any chance that she could jump off of Dusty and find a place to hide?
There is no chance, Lily.
Okay.
These warg, you're on it in a field.
I was wondering if they might go after the horse and not really even notice that she was gone for a moment.
Oh, you know something? It is tall grass. You are a hobbit. You could probably, if you dropped off and rolled.
Yeah.
Maybe with an acrobatics roll, and then a hide roll. We'll see if because you have two of them that are pretty close. Yeah. yeah.
All right.
But here's the thing. Warg, for all their cunning and whatnot, they are animals. And they have the scent of Dusty for sure.
That's what I was thinking, that they're very into eating horses. I'm sure they're fed horse meat at times. So, shall we try it? I'm not bleeding, no.
It's up to you, Lily. No, Lily actually came through pretty unscathed, I believe, from your.
I believe that I'm full hit points.
Yeah, you were in a good position, I think.
Not very many of them, but I've got them all.
Yeah, so if that's what you want to do, go for it. Give me the two rolls.
They've got blood scent on them, and I don't.
But put the rolls in the chat.
Okay.
And we'll narrate what happens. Yeah. So Lily, you roll off of the saddle and you hit the ground, and you hear this kind of crunch as your shoulder
I've got to
slams.
hang
Oh.
on. I've got to retcon the stealth
Oh.
roll. I think. Oh man, I just need to make a double check on this because I think. No, that's right. Never mind.
Yeah. So you feel and hear this crunch as your left shoulder slams into the ground as you roll off of Dusty's saddle, and then you kind of roll and tumble through the grass. You are going to take some bludgeoning damage. So you're going to take 4 bludgeoning damage, and your shoulder is just aching. You are able to hold on to your bow as you do this. You kind of tumble with it, but you do lose one of your arrows as the one you're getting ready to shoot, and then you kind of just roll off into the grass, and you hear as the large shadowed form of a warg continue to chase after your poor mount, and that'll bring us to the top of the initiative. And Araphor, before you go, off in the distance, about 12 feet away, was Mithni with Orodreth. The horse, hearing the just what does a pony make? It kind of makes this like almost like a scream, doesn't it, when it's like afraid?
Mm-hmm.
So the sound of Dusty does something. Mithni spins with Orodreth, and they rush back out into the field after Dusty. And in all intents and purposes, to you, it looks as if Orodreth is charging after Lily. No, you guys, from your vantage point, give me a perception roll. Not at disadvantage because there is star and some moonlight coming through the light cloud cover out in the field. So you can see the dark forms fairly well. Yeah, it looks, when you see her fall off the pony, you can't necessarily know her strategy. You don't know if maybe she was hit by an arrow, but the closest warg, you see it chasing after Dusty. And the other ones that were kind of swinging in from the side, you see them kind of falling off after Dusty too. So Araphor, as we go to your turn, you would see Orodreth and Mithni rush out of the tree line, heading in the direction where Lily was driven on Dusty. Yeah, you would see the same thing as well, Moira.
Depending on where it's positioned at, would it be possible to try to like turn with it and try to corral it back in the right direction?
You could
Where is it
definitely
too
you
far
could
past?
definitely do that. You're closer to Mithni than Mithni is to Dusty. Dusty's a good 50, 60 feet away.
Well, I guess actually I gave Moira the reins, so I can't do that. I'm along for the ride.
Yeah, no, if we're close enough, she would go over and just kind of try and cut off the horse. And, what are you? Don't. We gotta go. And just kind of look and see his response.
Yeah.
Waiting.
And as you bring Sun Gold in close, so that the horse's shoulders are almost touching, that's when you see Moira. You see that it's not Orodreth astride this horse, riding this horse. You see that his form is cloaked, and it's been tied. The cloak has been tied about him. His head is not exposed, and he's just leaning down over the neck of Mithni. You can also see where blood has started to seep through his cloak.
She screams.
Awesome. But you are able to stop Mithni's progress as Araphor. You could say yay or nay to this, but you would shoot out your hand and you would grab the reins to Mithni. And that brings us to poor Dusty. You hear the screams of your pony dying, Lily, as you sit in this grass. But it only lasts a moment as these wargs make quick work of the poor pony. You hear the goblins just screaming to the night air. You hear one of them say, well, Ishi, do you speak Orc or Orcish?
I don't.
No. Do you, Lily, speak Orcish?
I can understand a few words of most languages, but not more than a couple of words of Orcish, I'm sure, at best.
Yeah. The only word that you can make out in Orcish is hobbit.
Right.
As you hear several of the goblins saying with a certain degree of consternation, Otakas, hobbit, Otakas. And so you're sitting. It's your turn, Lily.
Okay. Well, Lily
Sitting
would
in
like
this
to.
tall grass.
Yeah. Lily would like to get up and use her stealth to see if she can get farther away from them.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, there we go. That's a little better. Total of 17.
Yeah, good roll. So you guys can't see Lily anymore. But you heard the screams of Dusty, the final wails of the poor pony before it was killed by the warg. And but you see a large warg form rising up from the grass, right around where you saw Lily disappear off of Dusty. And it's creeping, stalking quietly towards something. What is your passive perception, Lily? I can't read it on your sheet.
It's 12.
12. You hear the snap of some dry bit of grass, or maybe it's not the crushing sound of some dry grass, and you turn just in time as this large form of this warg rises up above you, just a couple of quick paces from you, and you see the slathering jaws of the warg, and it growls. And there's a small goblin on the back. It has its bow drawn, and it's like, and it fires an arrow at you. And does a 13 hit your armor class?
Yes, AC is 13.
Oh, geez. So it just catches you with this arrow, and you're going to take 4 points of piercing damage as the arrow. You try to shift, but you just can't quite get your feet under you, and you take an arrow, and it's in your lower abdomen, just above your hip. Would Lily scream?
You know, Lily's ever sort of hopeful, and she really hopes that her comrades will get away. So she's going to muffle her squeal. It's going to be kind of like, ah! And then she's going to stop.
Awesome. I love it. I'll give you inspiration that'll carry over to your next character.
Thank you. You're so kind.
I'm like that way. I'm that way. I'm not like Lloyd. I could be nice. Just kidding. Lloyd is actually awesome.
I know he is. So she's actually, since he's right there on her, going to grab out her short sword. And can she attack, or is that?
Yeah, you could definitely attack. It had a held action, and that's why I was able to shoot you with the bow.
Okay.
So it's not a clean hit. It actually gets caught in a little bit of your clothing. So you can feel that it's pierced your skin, but it's not deep. So that's maybe some little bit of good news for the poor little Lily. You can definitely strike at this thing if you want.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna go, I think, for the warg. Oh, it's a nat 20.
Yes,
Perfect.
And this just happens to be the one. You can see that its front shoulder is there's a little dapple of blood from your earlier shot.
All right. So roll damage, double it, add the.
Yep. Well, you take your base damage die, so you're automatically gonna do 6 points of damage. Roll the 6 again, and then add your ability to it.
Okay. That's going to be 11 points of damage total.
Perfect. So you drive your short sword in there really deep, but also give me a D100 roll, please, because you've crit this warg.
Let's see if I can find. There it is. That's going to be 99.
Oh, nice. You drive at its chest with your short sword, and it lunges down to bite you at the same time, and you drive your short sword in through its snout. You feel the sword separate the bone of its snout and comes out the bottom part of its jaw. It instinctively rears back from the blow, and it is stunned. And you can see its tongue is just kind of lolling out of the wound. That was a vicious hit. So it cannot take any reactions this turn as a result of that. Brutal. And that brings us back to the top of the order, Araphor.
As Moira's scream goes out, Araphor is just, all he can do in this moment is retreat further back into his mind and into his head. And he's just going to hold the reins of this second horse and hope that at least some of them can get away.
Yeah, perfect. You start to pull the reins, and you could feel through his body behind you, Moira, that he's trying to instinctively turn Sungold back to the tree line. But you would hear the fight that is happening from little Lily. You can't actually see her, but you see this warg just kind of rear back, and you maybe catch just a flash, like a spray of its blood as it pulls its snout free of her short sword.
Moira barely notices what's going on behind them. She's staring at the covered, bundled form of Orodreth. And the air leaves her lungs. And she looks at Araphor. And she says, "But we have to get away. The three of us." And she just can't move.
He's going to try his best to remain calm and try to, if she's not totally frozen looking, try to direct, almost push lightly on the side of her head to try to get her eyes forward and just say, "Yes, we have to get away. We need to watch our front. We need to direct the horse." He's spitting the words out almost like a zombie. The words are empty and hollow. But there's only survival instinct that's directing his words. His actual personality is long gone.
Yeah, Araphor is practical for the purposes of, he's seen what wargs can do. He's seen what it's done to a pack of wargs can do to a company of well-trained rangers. He knows that he knows that your chance of survival is slim. He's probably already maybe even written Lily off. But Sungold is well trained. She won't do anything that her master does not tell her to do. So she does not move. She stays steadfast, waiting for Moira to give her the command where to go. You would feel her tense beneath you, Moira. She's wanting combat. She wants the fight. She senses what Mithni is trying to do. And maybe she's a bit confused too. Since she was a foal, you guys have trained together. And we'll move to the warg. The warg looks stunned, Lily. Bleeding heavily from the snout that you have ruined in it. It's kind of pulled back, which seems to have frustrated the goblin on its back. It's struggling to keep its seat. But it does. And it fires an arrow at you, hoping to finish off this nasty little hobbit. But the arrow misses, sailing wide of your head. Lily, what would you like to do?
She's going to attack the warg again. See if she can take it down while she's there. She doesn't really see an opportunity to disappear off into the grass. Okay.
A
total of 8.
I was gonna say, is that a good laugh? Or you will, if you're attacking the warg, you will have advantage because the warg is stunned because you crit it.
Oh, that's a whole heck of a lot better.
Yeah,
because
so mechanically,
that comes to 23.
Is, 23, that'll hit.
Yeah.
So give us some damage. So you just duck back in and lunge with your short sword.
Yep. I suppose on a D6 that's a 6 and not a 9, huh? A total of 8 points.
Yeah. So you drive it in, and the warg just kind of howls to the sky, and it draws back from you. Much, again, to the frustration of this poor goblin that just wants to kill you.
Lily just hopes that she's distracting the wargs and goblins to the point where her friends can get away.
Yeah.
So once Dusty failed, she didn't see much hope of getting out.
Yeah. So that brings us to the top of the next round. Araphor and Moira, you would see the remainder of these wargs with their riders are starting to make their way to where Lily is fighting for her life. They're 80 or more feet from her, but you know that it's just a matter of time before those wargs close the distance on her. And with that, Araphor will open it on your turn.
Araphor will just go.
Moira complies. She's watching and maybe making sure Araphor has Nithni's reins. But she nudges Sungold with one knee. And they take off. Yeah.
You turn the two horses to head back into the tree line, heading for the Brandywine River, which you know lies on the other side of this expanse of wood. And maybe you notice shadows moving along the tree line towards you, cutting you off. There's that moment. Yes, that's exactly that feeling. There's more. This is the end. But then, Araphor, you notice these are too big to be goblins. These are not wargs. You hear the thrum of bows and the singing of arrows. Lily, you see the goblin get struck in the chest by an arrow, and it's taken off of the warg in front of you, and it drops dead to the ground. The warg backs away from you and turns to run. You hear arrow after arrow fire. These are rangers that are coming out of the wood. Drawn to the combat from the sounds of the wolves, you think you are saved.
Actually, Lily hopes to take advantage of the confusion that's going on and to see if she can stealth back into the grass.
Yeah, you can. The warg that you had destroyed its snout, it actually disengages from you and it starts running away. A couple of arrows are fired after it. You see a couple of the other goblin riders go down under a hail of arrows from these rangers. And one of the wargs also goes down, but several of the others are hit before they start to flee across the grassland to the other side of this plain. But yeah, you can roll off into the woods. We'll be out of combat unless you guys are going to press it by chasing down the wargs. But several of these darker humanoid shapes do give us sort of chase as they move across the field and just firing arrows at the fleeing wargs and remaining goblins.
Seeing that she's been rescued, but not totally sure if they can tell whether or not she's a goblin in the dark.
Oh, good call. You're right.
Lily just kind of waits until they get past her and kind of creeps onto her, creeps towards her friends.
Yeah. So in that case, give me a stealth roll, then.
All right, her stealth is 14.
Yeah. So two of these larger forms start walking past you. One walks right past. You see him load an arrow and fire it before he starts to draw another one, and he runs away from you. Another one you see fire an arrow, and he starts taking a couple steps, and then he stops and he goes, "Oi, what do we have here?" And he crouches down. He pulls back a hood, and you see a grizzled face, probably a guy in his middle years. His nose is crooked. It's probably been broken a few times. He goes, "A hobbit, I see." And he reaches down to you, and he says, "I'm Redwald."
Lily kind of squeaks in surprise. Hi, I'm Lily. Thank you.
This is no place. Yeah, he says, "This is no place for hobbits. What are you doing here?"
I'm here with friends, but they had to flee, and my pony couldn't keep up.
He's kind of crouched with his longbow across to his great bow across his knees. And you see him look over his shoulder off in the direction that you know Araphor and Moira made it into the woods. He says, "Your friends are fine." And he rises back to his full height, and he says, "Come with me." And he starts to head back towards Moira and Araphor.
Yes, Lily is perfectly happy to follow someone in authority with the bow that has saved her from all the wargs.
So Araphor,
she's kind of limping as she goes. She's pretty beat up.
Yeah. So Araphor and Moira, you would see this ranger approaching, and kind of just maybe the top of her head, you would see Lily kind of bobbing along next to him, because the grass is almost as tall as she is. And you recognize him immediately, Araphor. He's one of your fellow rangers, Redwald by name. While not close, you recognize him. He's been rather accomplished, skilled bowman. He sees you and he says, "Araphor, not seen you in quite some time. Is it you then that leads this poor hobbit and that girl?"
Araphor's face is like a zombie. Like it's just empty. And I imagine him like he hears the voice, but he doesn't hear the words. He's just word. Like, and he looks at. There's no reaction on his face.
Araphor, are you well? And then you hear another voice as one of these other rangers kind of walks alongside. He's like, it does not look like they've done well. Look, one of them has already fallen. And he points to Orodreth on Mithne's back.
Moira begins to cry.
Lily realizes, as shook up as she is, she's probably the most coherent one of the lot. And she looks, and she's like, yes, we fought. We fought a great warg. And Orodreth died a hero, saving the rest of us. And she starts to cry too.
Redwald just shakes his head. He reaches up with his right hand and just rubs the stubble at his chin. The ranger that had just joined him, a younger one, crop of red hair, tousled on the top of his head, his hood pulled back. I did not think you were still in the ranges, Araphor. Word has it that you went south.
We've been running for hours. These two need rest. We need to find a place to stop. That's safe. We can talk then.
Yeah, the young, red-haired ranger. You would know him as Tompkin. Araphor nods. And Redwald agrees. He nods as well. There'll be time enough for talk. We must get to someplace safe. And you would start to see a few other of these cloaked forms starting to make their way back to you guys, having given up the chase. So 5 rangers in all have joined you. Follow us, Redwald says. And he leads you guys back into the woods, probably about 100 feet in, to where they have mounts themselves. And they mount up, and you guys proceed to follow them further into this wood.
What is Lily going to ride?
Oh, you would? Yeah, that's a good question. What would Lily do? One of the rangers would offer to allow you to ride in front of him, much like a child would ride in front of their parent.
And she would happily agree to that.
Yeah.
When someone got her up there.
Yeah. So another ranger would kind of put you up onto the saddle and then mount up behind you. He kind of whispers in your ear. He goes, "I'm Farron. I wish we met on better circumstance. But
I'm very happy to see you.
Rest if you can. It appears as though you got some hurts from that war."
Yes. I'm Lily Took. And thank you.
He wouldn't say anything to that. He would just nod his head, grab the reins, and fall into line with the others. And so you guys spend the better part of an hour making your way, winding along this path that you were looking for, Araphor. And they lead you into a deeper part of the woods, and until you get to a point where there's this large outcropping of rocks, and they lead you into this little ravine. And as you kind of wend your way through this ravine, it opens up into a sheltered campsite. You could smell a fire burning. You can even smell as some sort of stew is cooking in a pot. And you see a few other rangers within this camp. So you know this is safety. This is one of the ranger safe holds. Redwald gets down and says, "First, we will take care of any injuries that you have. Then you will rest. We will talk more in the morning." And he doesn't even wait for a response. He just leads his horse off. And a couple of the other rangers, Tompkin, Varen, they lag behind. Varen says to you, Lily, he says, "You all can sleep in my tent if you would like. It is right over there." And he points to this small little, like a soldier's tent. It would be crowded for the three of you, but it would keep you from the elements.
I would imagine that Lily would have lost everything she had that wasn't on her person.
Yeah, all you have, whatever you're not carrying, you lost on Dusty. So
Yeah.
I'll leave it to you to make
But
that.
the gifts that she got from Orodreth would have been on her person. The pipe
Yeah, I
and the
imagine you could
dagger.
tuck that into a belt, behind a belt or something.
Well, the dagger and its sheath would have been on her belt, and the pipe would have been tucked in her, tucked in a pocket in her chest.
Yeah, give me a saving throw for your pipe. See if it survived the tumble and roll.
No, I should never brought it up. I don't suppose I get any bonuses on that either.
No, straight up roll.
Man, 5.
Yeah. You're crushed as you look into your pouch and you see that it has been snapped into the stem of this pipe. The bowl itself is still intact, but the stem just about an inch up.
Oh,
has,
that beautiful swan
broken.
carved, or no, that was the dagger that was swan.
That was the handle of the dagger.
Yeah, the city was carved on the pipe.
On the bowl, yeah.
On the bowl, yeah. She looks at that. Perhaps this could be mended. And she tucks it back in her pouch.
Yeah, so unless you guys are doing anything special, the Rangers would just settle you in. They would give you some of this stew. It's made with mushrooms and roots. It's
No.
average fare, but it tastes fine. And then it would get you settled in so you could sleep and rest.
So Moira's pretty bad shape, right?
Yeah, I'm going to let Moira kind of describe how she's...
I can help her. I do still have a heal action left with my medicine kit. So if I were to tend to her with any herbs that I might have or might be available and poultices, and I can help her heal up a bit.
If you come towards Moira, she gives you an angry look.
Moira, what's wrong?
Stay away, Hobbit.
I imagine Araphor standing like behind Moira, like away from her as well, but not looking towards her. And he would just kind of lift up a hand towards Lily of like, whatever you want to do right now, not the time.
You hear the stomping of a hoof, and you see Mithne stomping the ground, and you see him pulling his head back as one of these rangers tries to settle him, as another is trying to take Orodreth down off the saddle. And a third ranger comes up to help. And it takes their concerted effort of the three of them to settle Mithne enough so that they could then get Orodreth down off of the saddle.
And Lily, after all she's been through, understands that Moira's upset, but she's pretty hurt too. She just kind of backs up and starts crying again.
Do you approach Moira again?
Probably not.
The ranger Varen, who was near you, he had brought you a bowl of stew and offered it to the others as well. He's seated next to you, Lily, by this small fire near his tent. He looks over to what is happening with Mithni and Orodreth, and as you start to cry, he looks at you and says, "Little one, it's never easy when we lose those close to us."
I just wanted to help her.
Oh, and then he gets what, and he looks to Moira, which his eyes don't linger long on her, and then he turns back to you, Lily, and he says, "We all grieve in our own way. I'm sure Araphor has told you we have lost many brothers in our battle against the darkness." You got a sense he was going to say shadow, but then he thought better of it. Probably not wanting to bring attention.
Right. And Lily looks at him and says, "I lost my best friend, and now my comrade. We were barely able to save Moira." And if you had not shown up tonight, I would have been lost too. And she's just overcome. It's too much. But not too much to keep her from start eating her stew as she cries.
Yeah, it's an awkward moment for Varen. He's probably in his late 20s. Like many of the Rangers, he's experienced, but probably not so much in the way of consoling someone who has suffered so closely the loss. And he looks and watches as Moira rises from where the rest of you are and walks over to where they've laid Orodreth. Is it the dark thing?" he says as he watches her walk away. "We'll have to be careful, young hobbit, so that you do not fall into the despair and darkness. I have seen it happen to my brothers before. Steel yourself against it."
I have to take a stand. I saw if she almost says shadow and changes it, the darkness, come right into the Shire and kill my friend. If they could come in the daytime in the Shire, they could be anywhere. I have to take a stand. There is no safety.
You hear this snort, Lily. And another of the rangers has walked up to you, one of the ones. His head is shaved clean. He has this ragged scar that runs just below his left eye, across his mouth, down the chin, and ends just about halfway across his neck. He says, "Just run back to the Shire, where you will be safe, Hobbit. This is no place for your kind. You're lucky that none of us were lost to save you. You should know better, Araphor, to bring such as these into these troubled lands."
Lily gets a bit angry then and stands up. Like, Araphor saved me in the Shire from that same darkness that you think I'm safe from there.
He should have left you there.
I wouldn't be any safer there.
He was foolish to bring you. These deaths are on his hands. Araphor
Araphor stands up He walks like right up to this guy's face, like inches from him. One of my friends is dead. Another one is injured. Another one more injured still. It's all my fault. You think I don't understand that? You think I'm not feeling any pain right now? And he like almost goes to push him. He stops himself. Don't you think I know? Don't you think I understand what's happened? What blood's on my hands? Whose fault, whose blame this is? If you know what's good for you, you'll turn around and leave right now.
Yeah.
I don't want any more injuries to happen.
The ranger, as you rise to your feet, he takes this, like, maybe he's unconscious of it. He takes this little half step back. A hand comes down to a dagger at his side, and he nods grudgingly to you, shakes his head as he turns to leave, and you hear him say, "Never should have been a ranger." And he walks off. And Varen is just kind of awkwardly sitting there. You know, he's just kind of spooning some of this stew into his mouth. And he says, "He's a rough one, that uncle. He's lost many, as we all have. Pay him no mind."
Araphor is confused, trying to understand why this ranger reached for his dagger, and then he finally realizes that his hand is on the hilt of his sword.
Lily looks at Araphor. Araphor, you're not entirely to blame. You know we would have been out here. You've done what you can to help us.
Don't be ridiculous. The only
We can
reason
make
you're here is because you followed me. The only reason those two were there is because they agreed to help me in exchange that I would help them. They would never have been there if not for me, and neither would you. You know that just as well as I do. Spare
But you
your
also
words.
have to understand. You have to understand. Orodreth was going after that horn, whether you were there or not. And by himself, or him and Moira, they'd have both been lost. And I picked who I wanted to follow and where I want to go. Don't demean my choice by saying that it's all yours. She looks him in the eye as best she can from about, slightly above knee height.
Yeah. I don't know, Araphor, I want to give you the floor to respond to that or say anything or react to that.
Lily's words fall onto Araphor as if she was speaking to a wall. Not even a hint on his face that shows that registered with him. He just turns back and looks over at Moira leaning down next to Orodreth.
Yeah, you hear
Never
Varen.
have been in that forest.
You hear Varen's voice. He says, "Araphor, eat. You must regain your strength. Rest. There's a reason why Redwald says we'll talk later. Our wits are not about us. You must rest. You too, little hobbit," Lily took. "Rest. There'll be time for talking tomorrow."
Lily sighs. Yes. Here, hand me another plate of stew.
He would smile and he would go off, leaving the two of you by the small fire by his tent. And he would spoon out some more stew into a bowl for you. And so the camera would shift over to the solemn or the silent form of Orodreth wrapped within his cloak. and Moira nearby. I don't know if you're crouching or kneeling nearby it.
Yeah, she's kneeling there, and she's been slowly unwrapping, trying to see his face. And when she does, she checks that his eyes are closed, smooths his hair, wipes a little dirt off his cheek. A few tears drip down. They land on his blood-stained cloak. I'm sorry. And she's just whispering to him.
Yeah, if not for his cold, pale skin, he would look almost like he's at peace. You know, maybe a few times, like you, Moira, had seen when you traveled together. You would see him maybe asleep on it, under his bedroll. He looks now to be asleep.
I'm sorry, I might have missed that last bit. Could you say it again?
Oh yeah, sorry. So yeah, he would look like he was at peace, like he was asleep, much like you had seen him before as you traveled together. And so you staying there through the night, Moira, sitting this vigil next to your companion?
She'll leave to go see to the pair of horses, and then she'll come back and sit at his side.
Perfect. Yeah, it's a nice distraction for you as you brush out each of the horses. Make sure that they're fed and watered, which one of the rangers helps you with. Well, actually, I guess I should not assume that. I don't know with your temperament right now whether it would be like the oats and water are there, and they would give you space. Probably they would give you space. And once you do that, you return to Orodreth, and unless you want to do it otherwise, I would see you would just kind of sit this vigil on him until the exhaustion just takes you over, and you fall asleep near him.
Before she falls asleep, she's can feel the waves of tiredness, her eyes barely staying open, and she just kind of leans back against the wall. She says, "I should have told you, but I thought we had more time. My name is Edith. Was Edith. But it seems I am fated to be Moira for the rest of my days. A testament to the bitterness in my soul." Now you know.
Awesome. And with that, the camera will fade black as you guys are settled in and get your well-deserved night's rest. Oh, except for Araphor, who has the weights of the burden of the company upon him, and he tosses and turns within his bedroll. But we'll take a little break right there. Let's take maybe a 5-10 minute break, guys, and we'll come back. And we have Andre from Roll with Advantage watching us. Hey, Andre, how's it going? So let's come back at 10:36. We'll pick up the last half of this part of the adventure, The Burden of Sorrow. So we're all back, and so we're going to pick back up again. So so the scene picks up again the next morning. Sky is light, as clear and blue up ahead, where the canopy of the trees breaks, where it's kind of skirted around this kind of, I don't know what you would call like a bowl like that. You're kind of in this depression of stone that kind of protects from the elements, but also affords a certain degree of secrecy. And so you see the rangers moving about the camp. There's about 8 rangers here, um, with an occasional one coming and going. But you feel rested, with the exception of Araphor, who had a rough night the night before. So any one of you guys that rested can definitely expend hit die to regain any hit points that you had lost. I don't believe anybody had any levels of exhaustion. But Araphor, why don't you give me a con save, please? Jeff, if you're talking, I can't hear you. I don't know if anybody else can.
Aha, I had muted my microphone.
Yeah, I do that sometimes too.
I did the old double mute. It got me. Basically, perfect roll narratively, mechanically. That's a 3 on the die, which puts me.
Yeah, so you'll have a 1 level of exhaustion mechanically. As you're tired, you look tired. You look haggard. Lily and Moira both would notice that. But you see a ranger setting about, Tomkin, you see him setting about starting another fire. And he gives you guys a nod when he sees you. And Redwald would approach you, Araphor. You look like hell. Well, actually, what do you say, hell? This is where I wish games had a nice list of like terms that they would use that we take for granted here. You look like a man touched by, and you know that he's just about to say death, but his eyes kind of trail over to where, his eyes kind of trail over to where Moira is laying near Orodreth's body, and he stops before saying the word. You don't look good. What are you thinking? Where are you taking them?
The Hobbit followed and tried to tell her. The other two, they seemed capable. We needed to figure out what was going on. Aggressive, more so than ever. We figured there was a war leader in the forests. We didn't mean to fight, we just wanted to find out more information. We were ambushed. It's all my fault.
His eyes drift again to the still form of Orodreth when you talk about the ambush. But you see him, he's weighing your words carefully. Well, you should stay here. At least for a few days. Get your strength back. Where do you intend to go after? You looked as though you were making your way to the river. Are you heading back to the Shire then? Bringing her home?
The river was an attempt to lose the wargs. We didn't make it in time. But no, my path does not take me back. There's a duty that I've sworn myself to in honor of my fallen comrade. An oath that he swore I've taken upon myself. It's the least I can do to honor him, to see his mission through. As soon as I'm ready, I head for the Downs.
As you walk up, Moira, Redwald nods to an acknowledgement, but he doesn't say anything to you. He keeps his eyes low.
I'm holding you to that, Ranger.
Yeah, Moira. Oh, sorry. Moira, now would be the time where I would like you to give me a wisdom roll, please. Saving throw.
That is a 2 on the die.
Okay. All right.
So 4 total.
Yeah, give me a D4 roll.
4.
Ooh. So the goods and the bad is for those of you that rested, because you're in the safe hold of these rangers, you would lose 1 shadow. And I'm going to leave it to you, Araphor, to determine whether or not Araphor would lose a shadow or just stay at his current shadow. And Moira, you actually gain 4 more shadow as you are just devastated by the loss of Orodreth. It's put you in this probably that foul mood that the others saw the evening before. And foul may not be, that's my word. I don't know if that's necessarily the best word to describe the emotion that Moira was experiencing. And Jeff, just let me know which way you end up going with regards to your shadow. Even though you didn't sleep well, you could still lose the shadow if you so choose. So it's as though Redwald can feel the little bit of that tension, and he chooses not to say anything, and he just waits. There's kind of this silence just kind of hangs in the air between everybody. You see Varen is up. He's packing a backpack with some gear. And he too doesn't say anything to any of you. And then Tonkin comes up, his red hair kind of tousled, and so I don't know if Redwald said anything to you yet, but what do you intend to do with
A funeral.
And he kind of nods, maybe a little bit thankful that you finished what he was going to say.
I'm not familiar with the customs of Dol Amroth, but I can give him the best of Rohan instead.
You can tell by the rangers that are kind of assembled around you. You know, they shake their heads, so it would would seem that none of them know either the customs of funeral rites and from Dol Amroth.
And while Moira was speaking, Lily also came up and joined the party. And she speaks up. I would like to give him something of the hobbits as well, if I might.
If you had something to give him, you should have done it to save his life.
I was unable to do so. I had no choice.
Then give
I was.
nothing now.
And then she looked at Moira. I was able to save yours.
That matters not.
Redwald interrupts and says, "You'll rest here. You still look as though you carry the burdens of the roads. We will help you with this funeral rite that you would like to do for your fallen comrade. Though in truth, we are not familiar with the rites of Dol Amroth or even that of Rohan."
If we had a tomb, perhaps, a family cairn, that would be best, but if not, then
Tompkins
as many rocks.
Yeah, Tompkins speaks up. He goes, "Well, heroes are oftentimes entombed over down in the Burrow Downs, west of Bree. I don't know who your friend was, but seems as though that might be a fitting place for those who dare to go there." And Redwald kind of shoots him a look when he does that. And he's already, you can notice now in the light of the morning sun that his cheeks and nose is just covered with freckles. And which was kind of like an odd trait for one of the Rangers in the Dunedain. And his cheeks flush red. And he says, "Well, if that's something you would want to do."
Moira looks at Araphor, recognizing the name of the place, and she just kind of gives him a quizzical look. Is it far?
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna ask, Lionel. I feel like the Barrow Downs that'd be a long way to bring a body, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be probably, if you made good time, it'd probably take you probably a week, if not maybe a little bit longer.
If we go straight away, well, it's 7 days at least.
At that, Lily speaks
Any
up.
stalls, 9 or 10, be a long way to go.
And a long time. He's going to smell horribly by then.
Oh, did you just say that, Lily?
There is just this brief rustle of cloth, and Moira punches Lily across the face.
Oh my goodness. Are you expecting that at all, Lily?
No, but
Right.
she's a little tired of being treated like this too. She
All right.
stands up and wipes the blood off her mouth.
Yeah. You just take 1 point of damage as she punches you. Well, what's your strength, Moira?
I get a strength mod of +3.
Ooh, that's a pretty solid blow. It just rings, and you are knocked off your feet, and you can feel where your teeth have been pressed up against the inside of your lip, and you can taste the blood. And it's just like your head is just spinning as you kind of try to shake out the cobwebs. and you just see Moira standing over you.
You don't get to talk about him like that. He was not your friend. You did not know him. You did not save him. So you don't get to talk.
And Lily stands up and looks at her and says, "That's not fair."
Life isn't fair, Hobbit. Get over
I
it or
cared
go
for him.
away.
I've done what I could for him. I've done what I could for you.
Then go home.
She looks at, I'm a healer. And maybe that was rough, but that's true. It's not the first time I've dealt with the dead.
Araphor, you would see not just the rangers that are near you, but the other rangers in the midst of doing what they're preparing for in the morning, whether it's getting their packs ready for any sort of patrol that they're going to do, or preparing their morning meals, seeing to their horses. They all stop and they're watching in this small enclosure. Redwald, who's clearly the leader of the group, seems at a loss of words. He's looking at his open hands as if the answer or what to say is there, and he's finding himself lacking. You just see Arnkel off in the distance. He's got this smile on his face, and he just is nodding approvingly.
Araphor feels each pair of eyes looking at him and his companions like they're each a sun just burning into him like a ray of flame. And he'll step in between Lily and Moira, puts a hand up towards Moira, but draws it back before he does anything. I know that this is tough. Lily, you have to understand. And he's talking about Moira as if she's not standing a foot away from him. That she feels right now is greater than yours and mine together. I know you're trying to help. You're doing everything you can. It's respectable. You did your best. She'll come to understand that in time. Right now, I think it's best if you two don't speak.
Several of the rangers nod their heads when they hear that, agreeing with that counsel, Araphor. And Varen would come up to you, Moira, and you would see this man. You could see the sorrow. He carries it in his eyes as he looks at you. He doesn't touch you. He doesn't even come too close to not cause offense to you, but he says, take the time you need. Now is the time to grieve. Let us know what you would do, and we will do what we can to help you.
Araphor will turn towards Moira. I'll leave it in your hands. If you'd like to do something for him now, we'll take the time that we need. If you'd prefer him taken to the Downs, we will go. That's our destination anyways, to see his mission through.
Redwald's eyebrow rises at, kind of arches at that. Mission. What mission?
He was Sworn to retrieve the Horn of Anserene. I will see this task to completion. I will recover it. I will take it to Dol Amroth. Upon my life, or I will die in the undertaking, and join the brothers I've lost.
I have sworn this man's oath. In his final moments, I took his journey upon myself. I am sworn by his oath, bound by his honor, is greater than mine or any of us. I might as well.
And I too chose to join that for the sake, and she doesn't say Orodreth's name this time, for the sake of the fallen. If you want to take him, I could help to prepare him.
Redwald would say, he would address you, Araphor. Araphor, I shall leave it to you to decide your fates. But I will have counsel with you before then. There is much I would like to speak with you about.
Of course. Yes, there's much that's happened that would be good for the Rangers to know.
He nods approvingly, and he and Varen make their way over to this this table that's set up underneath this this tarp. Laying across it are several maps of the areas surrounding Bree. And as you would approach Araphor, he would look at you and he would look direly. He would say, "Certainly you know already. The goblins, they move. They come down from the north. Traveling further south than I have seen in quite some time. And with them wargs."
Yes, they followed me into the Shire. Even during broad daylight, they came. No fear. Something is driving them. Something deeper and stronger. Something that can send out these foul creatures of night into sun. Even while their skin burns, they still followed. Never seen anything like it.
Redwald, he listens. He stares at the maps laid out in no set order across this table, held down by stones. So it is true then. They travel under the light of the sun.
Yes. I've seen it with my own eyes.
What darkness drives them that could bring so many together? And to get them to move in daylight. This is a dark foreboding.
Yes. I fear it may be the work of enemy. One who has long wished to see the light fall. They're being led by what I don't know.
It was fortune that brought us together. For we, and he just kind of looks around the camp. He says, we seek the cause of this. But we have found nothing, as though we are chasing a shadow.
We tried to find answers. Death and suffering. Barely made it out with our lives. Answers not easy to find.
Orodreth, come here. Bring the item with you. One of the other rangers goes to this chest. He opens it up, and you see him pull out this a small item, probably no bigger than the size of a palm, and it's wrapped in just a simple linen cloth. He brings it over and hands it to Redwald. Have you seen anything like this before? And he unwraps it and shows it to you. It's a green glass pendant upon which is etched. It looks almost as though it's like an elven script.
And I do have both proficiency in lore and history. Is there any way that
Perfect.
I would know this?
Yeah, I added to the overlay. This is what's etched across this green glass pendant, and it's also attached to this silver chain. We acquired this from one of the agents of the Shadow. We could not take him alive, but he wore this about his neck. I don't know if it is some sort of symbol or not. So yeah, you can give me a check.
All right, and I do speak Elvish as well, so if that's Elvish script. But
yeah,
I rolled a lore
it's
check.
similar to Elvish, but it is not.
Okay, that's a 15 lore check.
Yeah, you recognize it. You look at the script, and though it is similar to that of the script used by the elves, you recognize it is the script. It is the dark speech. It is the writing of the Dark Lord.
Araphor's gaze is lost in the writing. It looks so familiar yet so foreign. It's hard for him to truly understand what he's reading.
Yeah, give me another lore check, because one of the first things that would happen is anytime you would see anything that is written in the dark speech, you would never say it out loud. And even when you say that, maybe you mumble that it's the writing of the dark speech. The few rangers that are around this table would just quickly take a step back. You hear one of them kind of suck in his breath. Yeah, right. So Lloyd is in the chat, and he says, "Don't read it, you fool." We never listen to Lloyd. That kills all the fun.
Yeah. The next roll is a 10 lore.
Yeah. You can't quite make it out. It seems to be some sort of name or some sort of signifier of something.
It seems to be some sort of name written in the evil tongue. I don't know what it says.
Redwald quickly wraps it back up in the linen and hands it to the other ranger. We thought that maybe you might know, that it might be some sort of clue. We got this off a man who was traveling with a group of orc.
Araphor's expression just shifts to one of bewilderment. A man?
Yes, a man, a Breelander, I would say by his look.
What was a man doing traveling with orc? Why does he have this filth with him?
He did not just travel with them. He looked as though he led them.
What? That cannot be. Or if their first thought of humans is to use them as food and torture, to murder them. They would never follow a man's words. How can this be possible?
Just dark tidings indeed. That a man would lead a band of orc, and they would listen. We killed them to the one. They fought with a spirit that I've not seen in their kind before. They're usually cowardly and will run. We lost 2 of our number that day.
Look, I know my duty as a ranger. I know the danger that happens. But I do not take this oath I've sworn lightly. If there's anything I can do to help, anything I can find out for the Rangers, know that I will. But know also, my next destination is sworn. I do not know which duty to break, but that man's memory deserves to be honored. It's the least I can do after what he gave to me.
Redwald nods in agreement. We will continue to seek out this agent, this champion of the Dark One. While I would welcome your aid, I understand. You must see to yours. They will need you. They will need your strength, Araphor.
And I will need theirs. Thank you for your understanding. You know, it's not easy.
Most of us will be leaving soon, hoping to track the rest of those warg. You're welcome to stay here for as many days as you need. I will wish you well on your journey.
I wish you well on yours. I hope we both live to see each other again.
And Araphor, as you turn to walk away, Redwald says one more thing to you. Araphor, something you should know. Your father, he was a good man.
Come on. I know you think that I'm under a lot of emotional stress now, and believe me, I am, but lies about that fool will not ease any pain.
He looks hurt by that. I knew him. I knew him before he was the man you knew. I would not be here today if not for him. Do not judge him too harshly. The world is a tough place. But you are a
In this
man.
world, all we have is the family that we came from. On to. He took that right from me. He took that knowledge from me. Gave me false lineage, false names. And he's stolen my future. Whatever he did to help you, compared to the hurt that he's given me. You may know him well. He is nothing to me. He's taken everything.
And you would see a sadness cross the ranger's face. It's as though he knew two different men. And then he would turn and go about his business. He yells an order off. Put that thing away. And he leads you to walk and rejoin your companions. Meanwhile, while you're having this conversation with the Rangers, Moira, you've requested of a few of these others to help you to get stones. So you've given them kind of this direction. I need stones. I need big, flat stones enough to. Are you planning to cover Orodreth with this and his horse? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So as you return to the group, Araphor, you see Moira is about giving these directions. And one of the rangers tells you, Moira, well, if you mean to bury him here, I can show you where we put our dead. It seems that he was a good man, and it seems a rightful place to lay him.
Perhaps nearby. But he was not a ranger. He needs something different, something more. I can't give him what he deserves. But I thank you for your help.
He just acquiesces to that and goes about, heads off down the winding path that leads out of this little hidey hole, ranger hidey hole, to go about collecting stones. What one of them tells you, Moira, is that they'll make a pile of these stones outside of the camp, and they will help. They don't have a cart or anything, so they would need for you to decide where you wanted to put the body. And Araphor, as you kind of come up at the tail end of this conversation, I would assume that you hear the intention of Moira, and correct me if I'm wrong, Moira, that you plan on burying Araphor with Mithne, correct?
I don't think she's said that. She'll just tell him she needs more rocks.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So strike that then. Oh, did I say Araphor? I meant Orodreth. Sorry. She's really pissed at you, Araphor. She's burying you alive.
And I thought she was mad at Lily.
Yeah, right. If Moira's punching you and mad at you, you're safe. But if she's quiet to you, look out.
Always the quiet ones you have to watch out for.
Right, right. So how does Moira go about choosing a suitable location for Orodreth?
She'll follow the ranger a little ways to see where they bury their dead, and then look for something perhaps a little bit uphill, set apart.
Oh, yeah. So you walk it. You go out. You go out through the ravine. You follow the ravine out of the rangers' camp, and you start searching through the woods. At one point, you even see Lily off in the distance. She seems to be rummaging around through the undergrowth, looking for something. And give me a survival roll, Moira. There's no failure on this. It's just going to just narrate. It's just going to drive the narration as to what you find.
18.
Within the hour, you find this clearing where the morning sun comes down, and it's this some wild grasses and flowers are growing, and it looks peaceful. It's beautiful. Dare I say beautiful to Moira, with risking getting punched. And you know that this is a place that if Orodreth were here, he would find the beauty in it. And you know in your heart that this is where you would like to put him to rest.
And she'll say as much to the rangers and begin assisting with hauling rocks.
Yeah, so it's a labor that takes most of the day. But by midday, you have acquired enough rocks that, half the rangers and the rest of your party assemble there. Though I would like to find out from Lily, what has Lily been doing?
Well, Lily went out looking for a specific herb that, even though Moira doesn't want her to have anything to do with the burial, she wants to and then plant near the grave or on the grave. And that would be kingsfoil.
Okay, perfect. So with the aid of Varin, Tomkin, and another ranger by the name of Theodulf, you acquire enough stone, Araphor helping you as well. And then you bring Orodreth's body there, carried again by Mithni to the site. And I will let you take the narrative here, Moira, as you prepare a funeral for your dearest friend.
Moira leads Nithni by the reins, just walking slowly in front of her, and gets her up right to the kind of edge of the grave, and will, probably with a little bit of difficulty, but she'll push away anyone who offers to help, pull the body down and lay it in the grave. And she kneels down next to him, and she's tried to clean him up as best she can. And he's still wearing his cloak with the silver swan brooch. And she reaches down and she unhooks it. And she undoes her own brooch that's this silver horse head. And she replaces them, swaps them out, puts the swan at her own throat, and her horse on Orodreth. And as she's kneeling there, she begins to sing. Brave soul, brave brave warrior of Rohan, ride on to the fields beyond. Brave soul, brave brave knight of Dol Amroth, ride on to the fields beyond. She leans down. She kisses his forehead. She picks his sword up and turns to Nithni, puts her hand on the horse's forehead. Says, shh, shh. You'll be with him again soon enough. And she plunges the sword into the horse's heart.
It's quick and it's silent as Mithni drops to his knees. And then he drops and kind of just lays off to the side. And then you just see his eyes go dead. Araphor, what are you doing through this funeral as Moira is singing to her lost friend?
Araphor's head just hangs, just staring at the grave, feeling just in every bit of him that he's sent him here. This is his fault. And the song rings in his ears and shakes him down to his core. Just the knot in his stomach grows and grows with each word. And as the horse falls, Araphor will not approach Moira, but move towards her, still keeping a couple feet of distance. I'm not sure if this will hurt or help, but I feel the need to say it. You had already fallen in battle, but as he left, you gave a final word. He said, I left to find a thing of beauty and grace, lost to its people. He looked over to you and said, and I have found it.
Moira's hand comes up to her mouth and just covers it. And she doesn't say anything, she just nods.
Take all the time you need. I understand. He turns away.
And Lily, do you say or do anything?
Lily, when the horse falls, gives a gasp because she wasn't expecting it. It's not something that would have been a custom that she was familiar with at all. But she doesn't, move or object or anything. She just was surprised. And really, she's basically standing there with tears running down her face, all choked up. And she won't go near the grave until after the ceremony and everything's done. And then she will go and take a little package out of her out of her cloak. And I don't know if Moira would still be there or not at the time. But she would, after he's buried and it's all done, she would go to the foot of the grave and scratch a little hole in the soil. The foot, because she felt that won't upset Moira as much. And plant a kingsfoil. Because the herb bears a certain purity that she hopes will help to protect his soul. And she will just say goodbye, Orodreth. Travel well. And go on.
And what about the young knight's sword? Will that be buried with him too?
Yes, Moira would have cleaned it off after Nithni, and then laid it on him and put his hands around it. And probably set the first stone down.
And following suit, the Rangers help you, as well as, I believe, Araphor, in putting the stones in place, both above the young knight Orodreth and his horse, his faithful horse, Nithni. And god dang, Taylor, that was awesome. Inspiration. If I wouldn't give you inspiration, I think Royd and Rob would literally hunt me down. Not that I wouldn't. I am like the inspiration fairy. If I wouldn't give inspiration for that performance, I don't know what would be happening. But that was beautiful. And you too, Araphor, inspiration for sharing those final words that Orodreth had when speaking about Moira and Lily, and getting the Kingsfoil to protect his protect him from the foul taint of hopefully the shadow getting to him. So inspiration for all of you, and that was just beautifully lovely. So slowly the Rangers leave this scene of the burial, and I would see Moira as probably being the last to leave this, whether it be fully leave it or whether her companions are just further down this small hill, this small grass-covered hill. But you're looking at these stones that will now forever serve as a tomb for Orodreth of Dol Amroth. A sense of peace comes over you, Moira, even in this darkest of events. And as you turn your back and start heading down to your companions, that's where I think we'll end this session. Well done to all my players. Well done. It's great. You're just going to make me cry every time, Taylor. Every time.
Sorry.
No, never apologize. Never apologize.
It's what she does, man.
You guys are all just killing it with the emotion that you guys are having and bringing to your characters. It's great. I love being able to play and run this game for you guys. So what we'll do is in between now and the next session, we'll just chat about what you guys are intending on doing. And from that, we'll decide where that puts you on your journey. But you're welcome to definitely spend as many days as you would like at the Rangers camp. I want to thank anybody that had joined us and watched. It was Andre from Roll with Advantage, Rob from Performance Check, and of course the illustrious Jarl DM was also there. And great session, guys. Looking forward to the next one.